Okay, good morning. Last week there was a handout with slides for last week's lecture, but I didn't finish them. So I would like to continue using the slides I had planned for last week. And then when I finish those, then I have another handout. But first, I'd like to start with last week's handout. So you started on the front. On the inside, and we got to about the first or second row, I have some extras, so if you don't have the handout, please tell me and I will give it to you. It says Lecture 2, April 18th, segment classes, vowels. Now, actually, before I begin, I'd like to do a little bit of review. And in fact, to review, I'd like to start by using the poll everywhere exercise. So if you could please take out a phone or tablet or some internet device, then we'll be able to review. This is you can either use the PollEv app or pollev.com/tuo, and you'll find this question. And we'll just do 5 or 6 questions to review some of the content from last week's class. And so the first one asks about the tongue position. We studied last week tongue height and tongue position. So the first question is, what is the tongue position for the vowel schwa? Schwa is the name of this upside down E, the sound a very frequent pronunciation in spoken English, largely due to the effects of stress and unstressed vowels. So is the tongue position back, central, front, or high? And the correct answer is central. Right? It is not a front or a back, but a central vowel. Right? It is a mid-central vowel, an unstressed mid-central vowel. Next question. How are English high and mid-tense vowel pronunciations changed during pronunciation? They are lengthened, they are louder, they are reduced, they are stressed. Which of those describes the natural change English speakers produce when pronouncing high and mid tense vowels? Not lax vowels, tense vowels. And the correct answer is they are lengthened. They are lengthened. Stress we will learn about later. They can be stressed, but they can be unstressed. But what's special about the English pronunciation of tense vowels is they get lengthened. Which segment class involves smooth lip or tongue movement? Is that the open vowels, the glides, the liquids, the nasals, the obstruents? Which segment class involves smooth movement, either of the lips or the tongue? This is tricky then. Smooth movement is glide. Glides like y and w. In order to create that sound, there has to be smooth movement. For the liquids, which include English L and English R, there's smooth airflow path, but there's no movement. Right? The tongue position of the L, which we'll practice today, remains in position, there's no movement required to create the L sound. So it's the glide. To glide across the room is to smoothly move across the room. Well, glide segments smoothly move the tongue in the case of yesterday, or the lips in the case of winter. What is the name for the vowel I? I. Is that a mid-front lax vowel, a high-front lax vowel, a high-front tense vowel, a high-back tense vowel, a mid-back tense vowel? Each vowel can be described by the place and manner in the mouth where it's pronounced. And the vowel I is a high front lax vowel. Right? I. At the beginning of the word if, in. What is the name for the vowel oo? Oo. Is that a mid-front tense vowel? A mid-back tense vowel? A high-front tense vowel? A high-back tense vowel? A high-back lax vowel? Which of those describes the vowel oo? People like it. This is the correct answer. High, back, tense. The lips are rounded, so it's sometimes difficult to remember that the tongue position is actually pulled towards the back. The sound oo is created by lengthening the space in the mouth. By pulling the tongue back and pushing the lips forward, it creates a long space which generates this oo sound. So the correct answer would be the high back tense vowel. And then in reverse, what is the symbol? What is the IPA symbol for a mid-front lax vowel? I can't say it. I just point to this one, this one, this one. This is the correct answer, right? The E that's shaped this way. This kind of number 3 is reversed. This actually is an IPA symbol, and it does appear in some dialects of English. It's the sound I. So when a British English speaker pronounces the word girl, so I would say girl, this is me, girl, and they would say girl, girl. So it's very similar to this, but without the kind of R-like sound. Whereas this if you've ever seen the Greek alphabet, the name of this letter in Greek is epsilon, epsilon, which is why it was chosen for the sound a mid-front lax vowel. And just one more. Which vowel has the same tongue position as the glide y? There are some vowel glide pairs where the tongue position, tongue height match. Basically, and so they have the same degree of sonority. They belong to the same segment class. Which of these segments has the same tongue position as the glide y? we're not sure, we might be able to say the sound y at the beginning of yes, yes, and feel the tongue position, yes. Is it similar to I, or oo? Of all of these, the closest would be I. Yeah, I. Wow, so it's not clear. All right, so in fact, the tongue position for a y, which is a smooth moving tongue, a smooth tongue movement, begins in the high front area. Right? When I say yes, yes, you can feel your tongue lowers and pull yes, or yacht. Yacht. What's a good word? Yo. Is there a yo word? Yo. Not a common word. Yo. Yoda, right? The Star Wars character Yoda. Yo. You can feel your tongue pulls back away from this high front position. So the correct answer would be the vowel I, which is a high front vowel, has the same tongue position as that in the pronunciation of y. Y. Okay, I will stop that exercise and return to the handout. Actually, I have a few little review slides. Before I start with the slides on the handout, I just want to review some key points. Right? So from last week, we learned that the set of vowels includes segments that belong to 2 of the 5 segment classes. Because the high vowels are pronounced with the tongue raised high in the mouth, which creates a narrow, not narrow, but narrower airflow path, so it produces less sonority. So we separate the open vowels, which include low vowels, like a and ah, and mid vowels, like a, aw. Those are open vowels. And then there are the close vowels, those produced with the tongue close to the top of the mouth. The high vowels, which, as we just saw, are in the same tongue position as the glides. So these 2 segment classes, vowels, include the open vowels, which are mid or low. And then the segment class we refer to as glides includes not only the glides y and w, but also the vowels produced from the same tongue position. Because producing a narrower airflow path reduces the amount of sonority, the amount of sound created in speech. And so that would be the highest sonority segment class. The next. And then we'll go down liquids, nasals, obstruents. But the segments E and I, oo and are still referred to as vowels. It just becomes a bit confusing because they don't belong to the segment class we call vowels. They belong to the segment class glides. We have also seen that tense vowels in English are pronounced long. And again, this is a property of English pronunciation, not a property of all tense vowels. There are other languages that have tense vowels that do not lengthen the tense vowels. It's a property of English pronunciation. So the vowel E in English is pronounced E. We use the 2 dots to represent lengthening. The vowel oo is pronounced oo. And the high vowels are really simply lengthened. They're pronounced a little bit longer. In the case of the mid-vowels, two things happen. They're both lengthened and the tongue slightly rises. So we do not pronounce a, but rather a. We call this diphthongization. Sorry. It becomes diphthong-like. So we say a and o. So the tongue height and the tongue, sorry, I thought I had the word diphthongization there. So we define the different vowel pronunciations with up to 4 different characteristics or properties or features. There's the tongue height, there's the tongue position, and then in addition, there's the tenseness of the muscles. There's also the shape of the lips, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, none of this is new information. This is just a summary of some of the points I introduced last week. And we had this kind of chart where we represented the place in the mouth where the different vowels are pronounced. The high vowels, the low vowels, the back vowels, the front vowels. And inside each cell in the table, one of them is tense and one of them is lax. One of them is lax and one of them is tense. Now the reason I have switched the order and put tense on the outside, is because when you tighten the muscles of the tongue and throat, it makes the movement stronger. So if it's a front vowel, a front tense vowel will be a little more front. And a tense back vowel will be a little more back. So the lax vowels are kind of in the middle because the tongue movement is not so great, because the muscles are relaxed. They're not so tight to create the tense vowels. Now, just to review, and we'll do a little practice. It's challenging in a room with masks on, because I can't watch your pronunciation. But what I'd like you to do is to say out loud these example words, just to connect the sound with the IPA symbol and to words containing those sounds. So we'll start at the top here with the high front vowel E, as in the word beat. So E, beat. E, beat. That's the idea, exactly. Right? And then if we move to the lax vowel, I, bit. E, bit. Beat, bit. Beat, bit. Right. So beat is longer and tense. Bit is shorter and lax. So there really are 2 properties that are different between these vowels. So we have E, I, and then we move to A, bait. Say it slowly. Bait. And pay attention to the movement of the tongue as it rises. Bait. A. Bait. Good. Bet. Again, bet. A little lower. A. A. Lower. Okay. Bet. And then bat. Good. Bat. E. It. A. You can't see them. Okay. Moving to the back then, the high back tense vowel oo, as in boot. Ooh, boot. Ooh, boot. Now, English ooh, as I explained, oo, this is my safety measure. So oo, right, has rounded lips. Oo, right? So it's not boot, but boot.
Boot.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Boot.
Boot.
Now we don't have a word with a B and a T behind the lax vowel, so the closest is book.
Book.
Boot.
Boot.
Book.
Book.
Boot.
Boot.
Book.
Book.
Oo is lengthened and tense. Is short and lax. O, boat.
Oh, boat.
Good. Boat.
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 Good, yeah, that's right. And the lax vowel would be as in ball.
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 Not bowl. This would be a bowl, and this is a ball. Bowl.
Bowl.
That's good. Bowl.
Bowl.
Sorry, I don't mean to make bowl.
Bowl.
Ball.
Ball.
That's good. Yeah, okay. Now, I could use a T. So some dialects of English pronounce the past tense of bring, brought. 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 Ball, brought. But there's variation. Lots of speakers pronounce it brought. 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 Or sorry, not brought, not bring. Buy. To buy something. Yesterday I bought. Bought. But in my dialect I say bought. So it's a bit different. Okay. So ball. And then this would be the that we have in bot. This is recently the internet has bots. Right? That kind of automatic software that appears to be a person, but it's an automatic bot. It comes from the word robot, but it's simply called a bot. It's a low back vowel. So for those dialects that would say bought, I bought a new book yesterday. Bought, bought. They're close, right? Bought, bought. Bought, bought. The tongue is lower and further back in the case of the moving to the central vowels, right? The central vowels we have mid-central, tense, and lax. Right? So there's the vowel a stressed mid-central vowel, as in the word but. But, which is different from but. But. Bot is low and but is mid. So but. Okay. The unstressed vowel is the first sound in the word about. About. So it's weaker than the it's shorter in duration, it's faster, and it has less energy, less volume. It's weaker because it's unstressed. Right? So it's about. It's the sound you make when your tongue is neither high nor low, neither front nor back, just always short. It's never lengthened because there's no tension of any kind. About. Okay. And then moving up, the unstressed high central vowel. This is the at the end of ever. Ever. So ever. 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 And then the last one, the high central vowel in a stressed position. This is the between the b and the d in bird. It's easy to be confused because the spelling in English has two letters. But there's no I-er. There's not two segments. It's a digraph. Right? It's a double letter spelling representing the sound which is this one. B-er-d, bird.
Bird.
Good, and bird.
Bird.
Huh? First.
First.
Learn.
Learn.
Turn.
Turn.
Yeah, good. Okay, I have more examples in a minute. Okay, so those are the 14 vowel pronunciations of English. 14 monophthongs. Right? Mono means one. Thong is the Greek word for segment. So monophthongs are single segment vowels. We also have diphthongs. Right? We have 3 of them in English, like the sound I. It's not I. It's not separate. It's one movement from I, as in the word bite.
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 B-I-T. Bite. Good. We also have the diphthong ow. These both start in the low central position in the mouth. This one rises to the high back position. Ow. As in about.
About.
This part of the ow. This is a schwa, about. And the third diphthong is the one that begins with the mid-back vowel o, and then moves to the front, as in oi, like the word boy. Boy. Not boy, but boy. Right. Now notice, as I said before, true diphthongs combine completely different tongue positions, either low to high or back to front. So when we see a segment that looks like this, it looks like it has 2 parts. They're not completely different. They're both front, and they only differ in that it goes from mid to a bit high. Right? So these are not considered true diphthongs. They're considered kind of diphthongized or diphthong-like or fake diphthongs because they involve a little bit of movement of the tongue, but it's not a completely different vowel. It's not back to front or low to high. So English has 14 vowels, 14 monophthongs, and 3 diphthongs for a total of 17 different vowel pronunciations. Just as a note, in written English, we name 5 letters as vowel letters. Even though we have 17 pronunciations, the names of those letters all share a certain property. This is the letter A. Although we don't pronounce it A, we pronounce it A, E, I, O, U. Because these are used as words in English, we say the letter A, the letter U. Right? These are all long or tense vowel pronunciations. And we'll see later that this is required in order to be a word in English. English words have a minimum size. It's possible to have a single vowel word in a language like Japanese. So the word for picture, right? E. You get an e. English, it's impossible to have a word e. And we'll learn why later. But for now, just note that the written letter names are all tense, lengthened tense vowels. So some examples. The A we see in words late, bake, same, tail. If a word is spelled with this silent E at the end, we pronounce the vowel before in the same way as the name of the letter. So if the word ends in the letter E, we don't pronounce the E. It simply indicates that the vowel before is lengthened and tense. So these are late, bake, sing, tail. And there are many more where the vowel is pronounced A. The letter E, again, if the word ends in a silent E, like athlete, this E is E. Compete, discreet. The silent E signals or shows that the vowel before is pronounced as a long tense vowel, same as the name of the letter. And likewise the letter I, if followed by a silent E in time, mile, bike, dine, will always be pronounced as the name of the letter, which in this case is a diphthong. It's a true diphthong, I. A low central to high front diphthong. In the case of the letter O, again for words that end in the letter E, bone, code, note, whole, right? These are all pronounced O, the name of the letter in written English. And then the letter U is a bit different because it includes the glide. It's not U, but U. Right? The Y is part of the name. Right? And when you see it in words ending in E, it's pronounced with the glide. Right? This is not coot, but cute. With a Y, cute. This is not fume, but fume. Fume. Mute. Mute. So when words are written in written English, when they're spelled with a final silent E, the vowel before is pronounced in the same way as the name of the letter. And the names of the letters are always long, tense vowel pronunciations. So there are some cues or some clues in English spelling for the way to pronounce these kinds of words. All right, so I thought I'd do one little exercise. We've seen the contrast between tense and lax vowels that occurs among the high front vowels, E, I. The high back vowels, U, the mid front vowels, A, E. And the mid back vowels, O, right? We've seen that tense vowels are pronounced long. Actually, I'm just repeating myself. E and in see, meet, and read. Or the U in do, food, and tune. I'll come back to that in a second. Mid vowels, here's our diphthong guys. Right? So we have say, ate, cake, so, phone, road. And just as a small point, I mentioned a moment ago that if a word is spelled with the final silent E, the vowel before is pronounced like the name of the letter. And so we saw the letter U in music, or mute. There is one exception, naturally. If there's a rule, there's going to be some exception. This word here, T-U-N-E, it ends in a final silent E, so the vowel before should be pronounced like the name of the letter. And in British English, Australian English, it is. But Americans and Canadians, for a different reason that we'll learn about a lot later, if the sound is a T, we don't make the Y sound. So British English speakers will say tune, tune, but American English speakers will say tune, tune. So there are some differences in the varieties of English. We see that in other spellings as well. Like so, N-E-W. For British English speakers would include the Y. It's new, new. And in fact, when the name of the city, New York, is borrowed into Japanese, it's borrowed into Japanese as New York. Okay? That new comes from British English. The American pronunciation does not have the y. Americans will say New York. New York. The reason we'll learn in more detail involves the sounds made with the tip of the tongue. Sounds like N, and T, and D. American speakers don't produce the y after those. But we do pronounce it after m in music, b in beauty, k in cute, etc. So there are sometimes going to be some slight differences between the varieties of English spoken in different parts of the world. And final point, we saw that lax vowels are pronounced short. They're not shortened, it's just that they are not lengthened. By not being lengthened, they are produced shorter than tense vowels. And some examples were sit, book, met, thought, where these vowels are pronounced as short vowels. So a lot of that was review. I've added a few extra details. It occurs to me that these slides are not. Are they on here? No, they're not. I'll have to add these to a handout on one of them. Okay, so now I would like to return to the next slide on the handout from last week, which is to recognize that segment pronunciations are actually combinations of particular properties or characteristics, what we call features of pronunciation. Distinctive features refers to the features of pronunciation that distinguish speech sounds from each other. We refer to them as distinctive features. And these features can have a value, either a plus value or a minus value. If we have a plus value, then that feature is part of the pronunciation of that segment. If the feature has a minus value, then that feature is not part of the pronunciation of that segment. So we'll see the examples, but one simple one would be your voice. The voice vibrates during the pronunciation of many segments. Surely the vowels, sounds like E and A, my voice is part of the pronunciation. But some segments are pronounced without the vibration of the voice. So although sounds like B, B, D, and if you're not sure, there are two techniques. One is you can hold your throat and you'll feel the vibration. B, 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 D, D, D. If that's difficult, you can also plug your ears and then you'll feel inside your head the vibration. B, B, D, D. Which is different from the segments that are not voiced. So the sound. Now be careful, don't say pa. Don't add a vowel afterwards. If you just pronounce the segment, there's no voice. Perhaps the easiest is to feel the difference between s and z. The only change is changing the value of this feature voice from plus to minus or minus to plus. All the other features remain unchanged. Right? And the same is true for or okay? So recognizing that pronunciations of segments are really a combination of a small set of features. And combinations of feature values distinguish individual speech sounds from each other. That's why they're referred to as distinctive features. Okay? And so we'll identify a few of them today, and we'll learn the rest probably next week. The first two important ones are referred to as major class features. And the reason they're called major class features is they distinguish the segment classes. They are used to distinguish the sets of segments that share similar degrees of sonority. And the two features are consonantal and sonorant. And so if you are plus consonantal, then it's a consonant. Not a vowel, but a consonant. If it's sonorant, plus sonorant would be a sonorant segment. Could be a vowel, a glide, a liquid, or a nasal. But obstruents are minus sonorant. Obstruents do not have sonority, so they're minus sonorant. All the other segment classes are plus sonorant. But by combining together the two major class features, we'll actually divide the segments into classes. So I can combine them with a plus sonorant, minus consonantal, plus sonorant, plus consonantal, or minus sonorant, plus consonantal. So if I combine these two feature values, that's going to define the set of vowels and glides. Because all of those segments share the property of being minus consonantal and plus sonorant. Now, it gets a bit confusing in that written English and spoken English are not exactly the same. So in written English, the letter W and the letter Y are often referred to as consonants. But the sounds W and Y, these glides, are minus consonantal. It has to do with the rules for writing. It's something special about writing. So segments that are minus consonantal basically do not have significant obstruction of the airflow. The airflow path is rather free in segments that are minus consonantal, and the airflow path is somehow shaped or reduced or affected in segments that are plus consonantal. Sonorant refers to this property of sonority. So segments that are both plus sonorant, I forget what's it. Either I do this one or I do this one, I forget. Well, this one's easy. I forget what came next. These are plus consonantal and minus sonorant. Right? So the opposite of the vowels and glides. So there's some significant reduction of the airflow path, but no sonority. Right? So that's going to be the stops and the fricatives. The sounds like p, t, k, the fricatives. Okay? These are minus sonorant. They're obstruents. They have no sonority. And they're plus consonantal. So there's some degree of reduced airflow. Which then leaves in the middle segments that are both plus consonantal and plus sonorant. And those would be segments that include the nasals and the liquids. In the case of the nasals, airflow through the mouth is completely stopped, and the voice travels through the nose. Liquids, the air flows through the mouth. Similarly, stops and fricatives are different from each other in the same way. Stops completely stop airflow through the mouth. Fricatives allow continuous airflow. So we'll see later what distinguishes these from each other and what distinguishes these from each other are the same feature. Those on the top will be minus, and those on the bottom will be plus, but we'll come back to that a bit later. I want to focus first on the vowels and then move on through the segment classes. But you may wonder, I've identified plus sonorant minus consonantal, plus sonorant plus consonantal, minus sonorant plus consonantal. Well, that leaves one combination of features. I could combine minus sonorant and minus consonantal. What would that be? Minus sonorant, so it has to be an obstruent, minus consonantal, so no significant shaping of the space in the mouth. In fact, we do have one segment with this combination of features. No closure in the mouth, no reduced airflow in the mouth, but also no sonority. No sonority means it's an obstruent, which kind of sounds strange since obstruent usually means obstructing the airflow. So it's not really an obstruent, I guess. It's a segment that is neither sonorant nor consonantal, and that segment would be the sound is made in the throat before, there's no change in the shape of the mouth. In fact, there's great variation in how this sound actually gets pronounced because we shape the mouth. When we pronounce words that begin with the sound h, the shape of the mouth is the shape of the following vowel. We're ready for the vowel because nothing in the mouth is going to change the h sound. So W-H-O, who. When I make the sound who, my lips are already rounded, who. I don't say ha-oo, 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 no, who. Right? My pronunciation, my vowel pronunciation is in position when I'm pronouncing the h sound. So the word he, the tongue position for E is already ready for he. Who, he, ha, happy. So the act of happy. So because this is neither consonantal nor sonorant. Now, we can then define individual segments through a combination of feature values. So if I list, is this the right slide? Yeah. So I'm going to list several features that we've studied. So segments can be sonorant or consonantal because they're major class features. And we've already learned that plus sonorant minus consonantal will produce either a glide or a vowel. Well, I'm going to go over the vowels. So these will all be plus sonorant minus consonantal. Now we've seen the value high. So segments that are high will be plus high. Segments that are low will be plus low. But mid-vowels are neither high nor low. So they will be both minus high and minus low. Similarly, we've seen that vowels can be produced towards the back or towards the front. And front vowels will be plus front. Back vowels will be plus back. Central vowels will be neither front nor back. So they'll have minus values for both of those. And then tense. Vowels can be either plus tense or minus tense. And so if I combine this particular combination of values, plus sonorant minus consonant, plus high, okay, it's a high vowel, Now, minus low is kind of automatic. Right? All plus high vowels are minus low. They have to be. Right? If your tongue is in a high position, it can't be in a low position. It's either high or low or neither. So in this case, it's a high vowel, plus back minus front. Same, you can't be plus back plus front, with one exception we'll come to, but in terms of tongue position. Right? And then plus tense. So this is a high back tense vowel. Right? So this would be the feature combination for the vowel oo, right? English oo. So ooh. I think that the vowels are missing on the handout, I think. Are they? Yeah, you may want to write in. So above here, if you add the vowel oo, this combination of feature values combines together to define the pronunciation oo. Now, if I change just one feature, if I just change the feature tense from plus to minus, what happened? Right. All the values remain the same. But I just changed the value from plus tense to minus tense. It's going to distinguish a new vowel. It will distinguish a high back lax vowel, right? Because it's minus tense. So it's going to be the set of features to define the vowel So the difference between oo and is just one feature. One of them is plus tense, one of them is minus tense. So now if I go back and I'll replace the tense with plus tense, but I'll change a different feature. This time I'll change the feature high from plus high to minus high. So now I'm referring to a non-high, non-low. Aha, so that's mid. If it's neither plus high nor plus low, so if it's minus high, minus low, that's a mid vowel, plus back, plus tense. So that those features combine to define the vowel O in English. Now you could use just the letter O to represent the IPA symbol, or O to represent the English pronunciation of that vowel. You can see what we're going to do. We're just going to go across the page. So now I'm going to change just the feature tense. Okay? So if I just combine all of the same values, plus plus, minus minus, minus, these are the same, except for the value of the feature tense. Now the difference then will be a tense vowel compared to a lax vowel. Right? The vowel A is a mid-back lax vowel, distinguished from the vowel O only in the feature tense. Okay. And then, what's going on here? Now here, I've forgotten what I did. So here, we're still going to be minus high, but now we're changing the value of low from minus low to plus low. It's still plus back, which means it has to be minus front, and it's minus tense. That would be a low back vowel. Right? So that would be the feature combination for the vowel A. Combining together values for each of the features will define a particular distinctive segment, in this case, vowels. Here, we've removed the low, so now it's minus low, minus high, that's a mid vowel, minus back, minus front, so that's a central vowel, minus tense. So in fact, it's minus, 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 a lax, mid, central vowel. Right? That's the vowel up, up, up. Now, if you thought it might be schwa, schwa shares exactly these features. The difference between schwa and this vowel is stress. But that's not one of the features. Stress stress arises from how segments are grouped together into syllables. So we'll be learning that later. So in fact, schwa would not be an incorrect answer. Schwa shares the same combination of features, which is plus sonorant only. All the other features are minus. Now we change one of those minus features from minus low to plus low. So now it's a low vowel. Right? Well, that would be the vowel we don't have in English as a monophthong, but it would be a low central vowel. Now we switch the low back to minus, and this time I add the feature tense. Right? So it's minus, 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 tense. Huh? Wait, what? Have I made a mistake? That's a mistake. Sorry. Hold on. Because that's plus high. It is plus tense, but this is wrong. This needs to be plus high. Sorry. Let me just see. Yeah, that's a mistake. Sorry. This needs to be plus high. Sorry. Because the vowel is a high central vowel. So it's neither front nor back. So it's minus front, minus back. It's minus low, but it's plus high. Sorry about that. The next one, we change the value. I might have made a mistake on two of them then. Plus low, plus front, plus tense. Oh, that's right, okay. Key point being it's minus high, but plus low. And again, just as plus high requires minus low, plus low requires minus high. Same reason. The tongue cannot be both high and low at the same time. Okay? So in this particular combination of plus low plus front, we're going to have the vowel a, right? A low front vowel. Now I've mentioned before that tense lax contrast doesn't exist among low vowels. We have a low front vowel, we have a low back vowel. We don't have pairs of vowels. There's no tense lax contrast. Now, but technically, the muscles of the tongue are tense in order to produce this ah sound. It's not contrastive, it's not distinctive, but it is a property of ah and not a property of ah. So this is a low front vowel, so let's change low from plus to minus. Okay? And all the other values are the same, are they? No, this has become lax. So this would be a neither high nor low, so it's minus high, minus low, so a mid vowel, plus front, minus back, so it's a front mid vowel, and minus tense, so it's a lax vowel, right? So it's the vowel e. But you get the point. The point is we can simply combine these features to define individual sound categories. So I'll just quickly finish them up. So if that's the lax vowel, if I change tense from minus to plus, and all the other values remain the same, it's going to be the tense mid-front vowel, A. And now if I change from tense to lax, but change minus high to plus high, lax, front vowel would be I. And then finally change the value for tense from minus to plus, and that's going to be the feature combination for the vowel E. Okay. Plus front, plus tense, plus high. Okay. What they all share, of course, are the major class features. Right? So sonorant and consonantal is exactly the same for all of them, which is why they all share the same degree of sonority. Sonority is affected by three features. These are two of them. We'll learn one more a bit later. And all the vowels are plus sonorant minus consonantal. In addition, the glides share those same values for the major class features. So just to summarize, oh, wait a minute. My slides are different. Well, then I'll just look at it. Oh, this was just to put them together and point out some of the features can't co-occur. Right? So if I just describe front and back across the top, and high and low across down the left side, right? These segments are going to be plus high and minus low. Right? And those that are plus front and minus back. Now, all segments that are plus front must be minus back. So it's not necessary to include, sorry, I did the low first. If you're plus high, it's not necessary to specify minus low. Plus high is enough. That automatically means minus low. And likewise, if you're plus front, automatically means minus back. But pay attention to the value. It's the plus determines the minus, not the reverse. Minus back does not mean plus front. Okay? The plus value can force the automatic minus value of the opposite feature. Okay? So in fact, it's not necessary to specify minus low for high vowels or minus back for front vowels. Okay? And the same is true for the back vowels, right? So oo and are minus front and plus back. Well, if it's plus back, it can't be minus front. And if it's plus low, it can't be plus high. So it has to be minus high. So it's not necessary to specify both feature values. It's only necessary to specify both feature values when they're both minus. So the mid vowels and the central vowels. And interestingly, well, I don't know, for me it's interesting, it turns out that languages start with plus values only. English has 17 vowels, right? So 14 monophthongs. Japanese has 5. Many languages have 7. And many languages have 3. If a language has 3 vowels, it's never e, u, er. They're never all high vowels. Rather, languages that have 3 vowels, almost always, not quite always, there's some variation, but almost always have a low vowel and 2 high vowels. The most common 3-vowel inventory is e, u, a. Lots of languages have e, u, a. If the language has 5 vowels, usually it will be like Japanese. It will be e, well, I don't know. E, u, a, e, u, a, o, a. Or a, e, u, a, o. Right? If the language has 7 vowels, again, not 100%, but more than 90%, it will increase the number of mid-vowels. So there'll be e, u, a, e, o, a. There's a kind of pattern to how vowel inventories increase. Again, it's not 100% because there are a few languages that are 3 vowels. Instead of being e, u, a, the e gets lowered to a. So you get a, u, a. So there's some small differences like that. But basically, you start with the plus features, and then you introduce the minus features. And then, so the feature that gets added for 7 vowels is tense, but only for the mid vowels. So they're minus, minus. So you add plus tense, minus tense to distinguish them to create 7 vowels. But the point here is this relationship between plus values and minus values. The plus value can predict the minus value, but the reverse is not true. The minus value does not predict the plus value. Okay, let's do a little exercise, a little break. So I'm going to give you the name of the vowels, just to kind of quiz yourself on what's the IPA symbol. And actually, the ones I place here are not the English pronunciation, but just the pure IPA symbol. So I have not diphthongized or lengthened tense vowels. I've just used the standard IPA symbol. So what I'd like you to do is to just write the symbol, the IPA symbol for each of the following vowels. A mid-back tense vowel, high front vowel that you read them. Give you a moment. And if you can't remember, you can check the tables and you can check the notes. That's the mid-back tense vowel, will be the vowel O. The high front lax vowel, the vowel I. The low front vowel, A. And again, remember, low vowels do not distinguish tense and lax. So the description has only two properties. It's low and it's front. Whereas the first two examples included either tense or lax, low vowels do not require a tense or lax description. 4, a high back tense vowel, the vowel U, and a high central stressed vowel. Remember, there's a slight difference between the stressed and unstressed pronunciation. This is the that looks like the number 3, the little tail, this R-like tail, I present this because there are quizzes and there will be questions on test number 1 exactly like this, where you'll need to write the IPA symbol that matches the description of the vowel. There will also be questions where you have the IPA symbol and you must describe the vowel. So here, write the name of the vowel for each of the following IPA symbols. And if you use a slightly different order, you will still get full marks. We have a standard order, but I don't really pay so much attention to that. Okay, the first is the vowel ah in soft, which is a mid-back lax vowel. You must include lax because you must distinguish it from o. You must include enough detail to distinguish it from every other vowel in English. Number two is the vowel a. So that's the mid-front tense vowel. You have to have mid to distinguish it from e. You have to have front to distinguish it from o. Number three is the vowel a in the word father, right? A low back vowel. And here again, like the low front vowel, it's not necessary to distinguish tense or lax because there's no contrast among low vowels. Four, this is the in the word book, a high back lax vowel. And finally, number five, the Greek letter epsilon, right, for the mid-front lax vowel. So you should be prepared to describe vowels based on the IPA symbol and provide the IPA symbol for a vowel description, or vowel name. So just to briefly summarize up till now, we've seen that vowels include segments that belong to two segments based on different degrees of sonority. This was the point I made at the beginning. We have the open vowels and the close vowels. Close vowels do not belong to the segment class of vowels. They belong to the segment class of glides. We've seen now several examples where tense vowels, when pronounced in English, are lengthened. If they are high vowels, they're just lengthened. If they're mid vowels, they'll be diphthongized. Tongue height and tongue position, whether front or back, high or low, will define the different vowel pronunciations. Okay? So here's a little pronunciation exercise. This is just so you're not listening to my voice for 100 minutes. I'd like to just practice making the contrast between E, which is tense and long, and it, which is lax and short. Most people have no trouble distinguishing the length, right? E and E is easy to distinguish because spoken Japanese distinguishes vowels based on length. Right? There's a difference between something being, it's good. I had a good example recently. Oh no, that was voicing. Hokosha and hogosha. So whether changing the vowel changes the word. So E and E are easy to distinguish. But I, the tongue is a little bit lower. Not so low as E. Right? I. It's kind of between E and A. I. But it's genuinely lower tongue height because lax vowels have slightly less high, slightly less front pronunciation than the tense vowel. So I'd like to practice the contrast between E and it using what we call minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are pairs of words with a minimal difference. These words are different only in whether they have the E pronunciation or the I pronunciation. And the first column is made up of words with the tense vowel, E. So just quickly, we won't spend too much time, but the first time I'll pronounce them and you can repeat, and the second time I won't pronounce them and you can pronounce them. So first is eat,
Eat.
each,
Each.
reach,
Reach.
seat,
Seat.
feet,
Feet.
beat,
Beat.
heat,
Heat.
least,
Wrist.
deep,
Deep.
leap.
Reap.
This time you read them first and then I'll repeat after you.
Eat.
Eat,
Each.
each,
Reach.
reach,
Seat.
seat,
Feet.
feet,
Beat.
beat,
Heat.
heat,
Wrist.
least,
Deep.
deep,
Reap.
leap. Now the same sound, changing the vowel only, produces a different word. So here again, we'll just go straight down. I'll say it first, and you can repeat. It,
It.
itch,
It.
rich,
Rich.
sit,
Sit.
fit,
Bit.
bit,
Bit.
hit,
Hit.
list,
List.
dip,
Dip.
lip.
Rip.
You say it first.
It.
It,
It.
itch,
Rich.
rich,
Sit.
sit,
Bit.
fit,
Bit.
bit,
Hit.
hit,
Wrist.
list,
Dip.
dip,
Dip.
lip. Okay. This time we'll compare the contrast. So each, itch. Oops, sorry, did I do it wrong? Sorry. Eat, it.
It. It.
Those sound the same. So you have to have eat, it.
It. It.
Eat it.
It.
Eat it.
It.
Eat it.
Eat. It.
The it needs to be a little lower and further, not less front. It.
It.
Eat
Eat.
it.
It.
Good, okay. Each,
Each.
itch.
Itch.
Reach,
Reach.
rich.
Rich.
Seat,
Sit.
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 Feet,
Feet.
fit.
Fit.
Beat,
Beat.
bit.
Bit.
Heat,
Heat.
hit.
Hit.
Least,
Wrist.
list.
Wrist.
Deep,
Deep.
dip.
Dip.
Leap,
Rip.
lip.
Rip.
Eat it.
Eat. Eat.
Each, itch.
Each. Each.
Reach, rich.
Reach. Reach.
Seat, sit.
Sit. Sit.
Some of them are perfect, but feet, fit.
Feet. Fit.
Beat, bit.
Beat. Beat.
Heat, hit.
Hit. Hit.
Least, list.
Wrist. Wrist.
Deep, dip.
Deep. Dip.
Leap, lip.
Rip. Rip.
Okay. So the key point is that there are two ways in which the pronunciations differ: length and tenseness. Another way to practice that is to practice them slowly. So if you slowly say them, the difference is stronger. The difference between eat, it,
Eat. It.
beat, bit,
Beat. Bit.
leap, lip.
Beat. Bit.
Well, you get the idea. Okay, good. All right. We'll do more of those in future weeks. I just have one point I want to say about stress, because stress influences the pronunciation of vowels in English. During the second semester of this course, in September, October, November, we study stress a lot. There's much more to learn about stress, but it's important to recognize that because the rhythm of spoken English involves stressed and unstressed syllables, and stress influences the sound we produce for vowels, I want to highlight the interaction between vowels and stress. The first point is that English rhythm, the timing of spoken English, is what's called a stress-timed language. Some languages are syllable time. French and Spanish are the classic examples. Japanese is similar to syllable time, but not quite. It's actually called mora time. But English is the alternation of stressed and unstressed syllables creates the rhythm of spoken English. When vowels are pronounced in a stressed syllable, they're pronounced fully and clearly, just like the examples here in class. You'll notice almost all of my examples are one-syllable words. One-syllable words are always stressed. When you have two syllables, sometimes one of them is stressed and the other is unstressed. If there are three syllables, often there will be one stressed and two unstressed, although there can be one unstressed and two with different degrees of stress. But we'll learn about that later. The point is, when they're unstressed, we have what's called a reduced vowel. The process is known as vowel reduction. We reduce the movement of the tongue. So instead of making it a front vowel, it's not front. Instead of making it a back vowel, it's not back. Instead of making it a high vowel, it's not high. And instead of being a low vowel, it's not low. We reduce the movement of the tongue to create this, and the result is always schwa. So schwa is sometimes called the reduced vowel. The vowel that is pronounced when a syllable is pronounced unstressed, and therefore reduced to schwa. Any vowel, whether it's high front, low front, high back, low back, any vowel can be reduced to schwa when it's in the unstressed position. Because the tongue movement, the gesture we say, the tongue gesture, is reduced. So it's neither front nor back, neither high nor low, which leaves it in this position. And because it's unstressed, it's the schwa, not the up. This process is known as vowel reduction, and it can affect any of the vowels. And as a result, I think I mentioned in the first lecture, as a result, this vowel, the schwa sound, is the most frequently produced vowel in spoken English. Now, when we look at vowels, and here, this is the shape I've been using. Each time I pronounce a vowel, the tongue is not exactly the same position. If I'm tired, or if I'm speaking very quickly, or if I'm eating food at the same time, there's lots of factors that result in slight differences in the exact position and height of the tongue. Nevertheless, it's in the same general area. So anytime I pronounce the ah sound, the tongue may be ah, or ah, or ah. There's a kind of range, a category. There's some variation, but it's not completely different, right? I don't say ah when I mean ah, but there will be some differences between them. And the same is true for other vowels, right? So the eh, sometimes the eh may be a little bit less front. Sometimes the eh will be a little bit more front. And even some speakers may tend to be towards the front, and some speakers tend to be towards the back. Or an individual person in different situations might be slightly different. It can also be influenced by the sound before and the sound after. If I say the word bell, bell, and the sound before is made with my lips, bell, there might be a slight difference than if I say the word dead, right? Where the sound before is made with the tongue tip, or kettle, what's the word, kettle, kettle. So the exact position will be slightly different, but there will be a general range. Right? And the same will be true for each of the vowels. Right? There will be a kind of range of the area in the mouth where each of those vowels is pronounced. And likewise, the low back vowel will be a certain range, certain area, and each of the vowels is a kind of category. Now I've forgotten what I do here. Same to all of them, right? And there can even be a little bit of overlap, a little bit between them. Now, when learning to pronounce the sounds of a second language, or a third language, or a fourth language, when you're learning the vowels of a new language, you're pronouncing them in the same mouth, the same space, right? And so the influence of the languages you know overlap differently. So here I've listed the 14 vowel areas, categories, regions of English pronunciations. Japanese, we've said several times, has 5 vowels. Languages with fewer vowels tend to have larger categories. Okay? The area gets used, but there's more variation. So Japanese a includes a much wider area. So when words are borrowed into English, so take, for example, the English word bath, B-A-T-H, bath. Or bus, B-U-S. Okay? Both of these become busu in Japanese, because there's this wider area for the a sound. And the same is true for the other vowels as well. The E of Japanese can be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, since it's not necessary to distinguish E from it. Whether you pronounce kit or ki doesn't change the meaning of the word. You might notice a slight difference. A person's accent, if they're from Iwate or from Kansai or from Kagoshima, there might be slight differences, but they don't change the meaning of the word. So there's a wider range of sounds in languages with fewer vowel categories. Okay? And as a result, the U of Japanese is wider and bigger than either U or in English. And likewise is true for E and for O as well. The challenge is learning a language with more vowels requires you to distinguish two sounds that kind of belong to the same native category. The difference between a and you really have to listen carefully. And in fluent speech, it can be difficult to catch the difference between a and It's possible. I mean, you practice and experience, but it's clear where the difficulties are. A and will be difficult, but a and o won't be difficult. Right? When the sounds are similar to the same native category, learners can have difficulties. When they are similar to different native categories, that contrast is usually easy to learn. So this is a general principle. So as you, I was going to say we, as you develop more and more precise English pronunciation, the key is to distinguish sounds that belong to the same area in spoken Japanese. So you'll want to practice u versus or o versus a. But you don't need to distinguish from a so much, or u from o so much. The difference between high and mid is not usually difficult. The tense distinction is often difficult. Not the length part. The length part is usually easy. The hard part is to get the slightly less high, slightly less front tongue position, right? The difference between these two. So this L2 vowel space refers to the relationship between the vowel categories in the learner's native language, which are in orange here, and the second language. Now, interestingly, there's a slight problem in the reverse. So native speakers of English learning Japanese have to learn to accept a variety of sounds as the same sound. So I might hear different pronunciations of ki and ki and think, oh, that must be important because they're different pronunciations. But they're not important. Right? It's a much wider range. So there's this relationship between a learner's native language and second or third or fourth language because we produce vowels in the same mouth, the same vowel space. Which is why the exercises that I do, so today we did eat, it, right? Each, itch. Right? We'll also do a, we'll also do and o, and select those areas to highlight the differences. I have time for one. Last point. Okay. So the last point I'll make also involves learning. Second language pronunciations are also made difficult by something called cognates. The term cognate refers to a word that belongs to both languages. But usually the pronunciations are not quite the same. So when the same word occurs in two different languages, it's known as a cognate. Well, what do I mean the same word? Well, this, for example,
pen,
in Japanese and in English, pen. Right? Pen and pen, right? They're very similar. It's the same word. Right? The exact pronunciation is a little bit difficult, a little bit different, right? And that can lead to difficulties. Right? So we have words like computer. Okay, so here there's a kon in Japanese. Kon, there's no o in English. It's computer. Computer. There may be a schwa, but computer. Right? Bargain, but bargain. It's not bargain. Even though there's an R here, we don't say bargain, it's bargain. Right? So they're related, so they're cognates because they have the same meaning and similar pronunciation. Usually there's a historical reason. Either, as in these cases, the English words were borrowed into Japanese and changed to fit into Japanese pronunciation. Right? Shirt, which has three segments, shirt. That is a high central vowel. There is no high central vowel in Japanese, so you keep the central. There's only one central vowel. It's the a of shots. Right? Same with seiru. The reverse is also true. Right? We have English words we've borrowed from Japanese. Right? So we have a word skosh. Skosh means a little bit of a small, so if I've been eating too much food and now my pants are a skosh too tight. Just a little, a skosh too tight. Or if I need to move something, just a skosh. So in my house, we celebrate Christmas in a very big way. And so we always have a big Christmas tree. And so I put up the Christmas tree, and then my wife stands at the other side of the room, and she says, no, a little to the left. No, a little to the right. No, just a skosh to the left. Right? A small amount. Right? Typhoon, right, comes from Japanese typhoon. We say in English sake or saki. Some people say sake. And then my favorite is the English pronunciation of this word is actually quite different. We say futon. Futon, not tone. Futon. And we clearly pronounce the N, right? In futon, there's futon, right? There's a futon, but futon. But so the words are borrowed in. So English learners of Japanese have great difficulty not saying futon. Right? Or my favorite, another good one is smoke. When we hear the word smoke, we think we are saying the word S-M-O-K-E, smoke. Because the English pronunciation for S-U-M-O, the letter U, we haven't learned this yet, but stressed, unstressed. So you get sumo. So the English pronunciation is sumo. Sumo. No, not sumo, sumo. If you say smoke, we don't hear that first oop, right? So cognates, these kinds of cognates introduce an additional source of difficulty, not only for pronouncing, but for hearing the sounds. We'll learn more about this a bit later, but the way we hear the sounds are influenced by the way we hear sounds is influenced by the sounds and the pronunciation of our native language. One of the ways that is seen is in the pronunciations of cognates. Okay. The next, okay, there's just a quick summary. This just repeats what I've already said, so we'll finish there. Right, so we saw that Japanese has fewer, broader vowel categories, and English has a greater number of narrower vowel categories. And we've seen that some Japanese vowel categories overlap across 2 or more English vowel categories, which can be a source of difficulty. So still, I did not finish last week's handout, so I will, next week I'll finish that up, and then we'll do the rest next week. Okay? Any questions? There will be a quiz on Manaba again this week, so check Manaba. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send email, and I will answer them by email. But that's all there is for today. Have a nice week, a nice weekend, and I'll see you next Monday.